All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Benny the Guest. With you, as always, me, Ben. I'm joined tonight by Eric Clark, one of the members of the Okayest Hunter podcast, the Okayest Hunter on Instagram, the Okayest Trapper, the Okayest Cook. We'll get into it in a little bit, but these guys are putting out so much content, and it's all like applicable hunting stuff that is just so awesome to see out there. So first of all, Eric, thank you for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, happy to be here, man.
Yeah.
Got the kids down to bed, so let's pour up a drink.
Same, exactly. Yeah. I just laid down 4 myself, so it's fun.
4?
Oh yeah, I got 7, 5, 4, and 2. So.
Oh, bro, whoa, dude, I got 7, 5, 3.
Oh dang.
Bust me. I think I'd be broken as a human. 3 almost did me in, and my wife wants 4, and I'm like, oh, are you crazy? I'm like, so you're crazy.
Yeah, we are crazy actually.
It's not.
Yeah. 4 kids. It's chaos every day. It's great. Eric, you guys, first of all, I don't get how you keep up with that. I guess we'll get to that. I want to get to all that stuff. First, tell us a little bit about yourself, Eric. Where are you from? Where'd you grow up? Kind of what was all like that about?
Yeah, I'm in Wisconsin. I grew up in southeast Wisconsin, just out of the suburbs of Milwaukee. Just love to be outside as much as humanly possible. I probably got in trouble as a kid for starting a couple different fires. Because I thought I was like camping, and they're like, "Kid, you can't start fires. Like, you can't just go do that wherever you want." Built a lot of forts, tracked a lot of deer, watched every hunting show that was on whatever public television show the bunny ears would get. And yeah, eventually I was obsessed with fishing as a kid, and eventually my dad had me in the hunter safety course. I was late to it. I was probably 16 when I got into that, so I don't think my first time hunting was till I was 16 or 17 years old, and it was in the Chequamegon-Nicolet National Forest in Wisconsin, which is pretty vast territory, pretty desolate, pretty cold, and fell in love with it right then and there. Got pretty obsessed.
What did you like? If you said you started hunting right then, but like your childhood, what were you hunting before that, or fishing? Were you doing any of that, or was it?
Yeah, I was just fishing. I was obsessing over hunting, but there was a stretch of time where I didn't see my dad for a couple of years, and my mom was like, "You're not getting a gun or a BB gun or a bow," or she was not really interested in me doing that stuff. And I was like, still I could think about. It was basically like the kid from A Christmas Story. I was like, "Give me the Red Ryder BB gun."
Yeah.
She's like, "Go shoot your eye out." I'm like, "No, let me go.
It's a BB gun.
So,
Shut up.
yeah. So it was kind of like one of those. And then when I did go with my dad as a teenager, it was gun hunting. I didn't get a bow till I was in my early 20s, and at that point I was probably still more interested in chasing girls and going out and having fun. And I probably didn't get real serious about bow hunting until right around the time I got married, coincidentally. Then I got real obsessed, and now it's like a total problem.
And that always works well. Yeah, the marriage and trying to get out there. Do you find yourself drawn when you started actually like going out there and hunting? Were you drawn to rifle or bow?
My dad gave me an old hand-me-down shotgun, so I hunted with that, with just iron sights, and that's just all I had. I didn't have any money as a kid, and my dad didn't have a bunch either, so he's kind of like, "Here's what I have.
Yeah.
Let's go." And I was always jealous that he had a rifle with a scope. I'm like, "Well, if a deer comes from further away, you'll be able to shoot it, and I can't. I gotta wait till it gets into 50 yards with this slug." First deer I shot with my shotgun in my 20s, and I think it was probably within 10 yards from me from the ground. I got down to go get lunch, and he just came around the bend of the
dang, yeah.
Shelf on a ridge, and I was like, "Oh, here we go." So
that's exciting. 10 yards that's wild right there.
Just like waiting for my dad, and all of a sudden this deer showed up, and I was like, "Oh, look at you!" And he's like, "Oh shit, look at you!" And he's like, "I'm gonna run." I'm like, "I'm gonna shoot." And then that was how that went. So
hell yeah.
Yeah, when I was a kid, I shot bow and arrow. Just my dad had some recurves in the garage, so I'd make him get up the target block, and I'd just go in the backyard and shoot that for fun. It was really, I didn't know I wasn't like preparing to go hunt or anything. I just thought it was fun to go do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
they I'm from Missouri, and where I live at, I never even heard of people shooting with a shotgun during deer season. We always used bows, or it was like youths. It was like a 223 or a 243, you know. And I started getting older, and I heard shotguns everywhere, and I'm like, how the hell does that even work? But it seems like everywhere else, it's like, especially like Wisconsin and Michigan, I think it's like a lot more common, I guess. But I don't really like. You've hunted for a while now. Do you still like use a shotgun every now and then, or is it like
Oh no, I bought a rifle.
no,
I bought a Remington 700 bolt action 30-06, and that's been my rifle. So I
solid?
hunt with that for gun, and then bow. I've been through. I think I'm on my third or fourth bow now. So
Around, you know, your later teens, early 20s, you started getting after it. What happened after high school? Like, where'd you go do? What kind of what parallel all the hunting?
um, I just it was one of those things where my dad hunted, and I felt like, well, I want to go hunt with my dad, kind of thing. Like, so there was no particular parallel. I think one of the first jobs I had gotten as a in my career was at a web marketing firm or agency, and I remember like I was wearing pink ties and shit. And then I'd be like, these guys be like, "You hunt? Like, you don't seem like a hunter." I was like, "What? I can't hunt because I wear a fucking tie." Like, uh, yeah. So it was always kind of, I really enjoyed
Yeah, I gotta
the
pay for this
stereotype that
shit.
people just, yeah, people just put you in buckets, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know. And again, I didn't start getting like real sincerely interested. I like to go because I went with my dad, and that was special, and it was a really good way for me to bond. But I didn't understand whitetail behavior, habitat. I didn't understand how to scout. Like I didn't know. I did whatever he did. I was like, look for sign. I didn't try to put puzzle pieces together. I was just kind of like, yeah, okay, there's deer sign. They must be around here. It's about as far as I thought about it.
I think
It
that's
wasn't
what
until
like
I,
a lot of kids do, like growing up,
yeah.
like YouTube maybe and figure it out. Dad was telling us stuff in the woods, and you're like, oh yeah, yeah, that's right.
You can
And
barely hear him because he's
yeah,
walking in front of you, talking away, and I'm like, I just see you pointing at stuff. I don't know what you're saying.
yeah. And you step on a twig, he's like, shut the hell up. Now this is how you do
Quiet,
this.
quiet. I'm like,
And yeah,
as you're talking away from me, you're telling me to be quiet. Okay.
yeah. Do but like what, you kept going with that. What kind of led you? What kind of led you to start putting stuff online? Like what was really like that
Yeah,
push?
that's a good question. There's a couple of things that kind of started to converge. Um, when I started to get more interested in bow hunting, where we gun hunted was pretty far away, relatively speaking. Like it was either north 5 hours or west 3 hours, which isn't really that far. Like 3 hours is not a
Oh, I
far
was about to
drive.
be like, damn, that's far as hell. But I mean, it's
But
not terrible.
no, but when I started bow hunting, I was like, well, I just want to go after work or this weekend. Gun hunting was such a big ordeal. It was like the Blaze Orange gun opener, 600,000 plus people go to the woods. Like it was a thing. And I was like, well, if I'm a bow hunt, I don't need to be driving up north 5 hours. And I could have then. I just was like, there's got to be somewhere I can go around here. And I created, also had an cast. And in the early days that I was genuinely looking for people to be like, hey, have you ever hunted this property? And I'd share the map, and because I couldn't get any information on anything. Like the DNR wasn't as robust then. Their website didn't have half the stuff that it does now, or even shortly thereafter that. And this community started to like just burst at the seams out of nowhere. Went from 0 to 10,000 followers, like what felt like overnight. And it was
Damn.
because people were talking about hunting properties and helping. The hunting app that I ended up bringing to market was a way to show active or show occupied and unoccupied access based on active users. And to market that, I had just learned about podcasts. I barely even knew what they were, but I was like, well, I should probably do one of those because then I can talk to people and figure stuff out, and like maybe like we'll build a little bit more community out of that. And through that app, I'll through the podcast, I can promote the app and serious and consistent a week for a year and see what happens. Well, that was like 5 or 6 years ago. So here we go.
Hell yeah. Was it because I told you I'd only been doing this for a little bit. Were you like skeptical at first, or would you really like dive in deep on it? Because I've learned and experienced every week is a very taxing thing, especially if you're trying to keep keep bumping it up and trying to like get out there with people. And what you got is, I mean, this is a big topic that everybody likes, obviously, like hunting, but it's also kind of a niche thing where like it's kind of, there's a large audience that doesn't pay attention to it. So like I guess to my point, like how was it like diving into all that, you know?
I wasn't consistent initially. I would like record ad hoc. I would produce ad hoc. It was just very sporadic. And I mean, no audience is really gonna like if you're gonna listen to a show, you're gonna listen to a show. It's gonna come out this day at this time, and you're kind of as a listener depending on it. Like if it's a radio show, you want to listen to your personalities every morning as you sip your coffee and get your routine going. It's like part of what you do. And when you don't have an episode from when they come back to listen to it the next time, and because you're out effing off, like you're not going to maintain a listenership. So it was sporadic, and that was taxing. When I did get married, my wife's like, "Yo, we had plans. You just derailed them because suddenly now you're going to talk to them." I'm like, "Well, yeah, they just got back to me, and this is what works for them. I got
Oh
to do
yeah.
it." And then I would try to be like, "Well, I'll just record. I'll produce later." So then I would put the production off because I didn't want to disrupt more. And then I wouldn't get to that until it was like in full court press. This is the day you're going to do the thing, and we don't have to like do this like putzing around. If you mean like you got to be someone that we're really like seeking to get on the show. Like if Renell says, "Hey, I can't do Tuesday at 6,
Okay.
but I can do Wednesday at 4," I'm like, "Well, we'll figure that out," you know. But by and large, and honestly, I would actually be hard pressed to be like, "No, dude, it's our show. You come on and we tell you." Like I really think that's helped us a lot. So that consistency piece was a big deal, and it's very much like acclimation. I've never climbed a mountain, but I've read accounts of it, like John Krakauer's Into Thin Air. You get to base camp and you puke for 2 weeks. You can't fricking breathe.
Yeah.
You're at a higher altitude, but then you acclimate and you're feeling better and you ascend higher, and that air gets thinner. It gets harder, but you acclimate a little bit. And then what seemed difficult at base camp is now a piece of cake.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
not difficult anymore. So I have this stupid saying that I say that doesn't make any sense at all, but it's one of those dumb sayings. But the more you do, the more you can do. You have 4 kids. You're not sleeping for shit.
Yeah.
You know, like one kid felt hard until you had 2, 2 felt hard until you had 3, 3 probably felt hard until you had 4. Now it doesn't matter anymore. Like now you're just like,
Yeah.
everything's burning. It's fine. Um, I think about our business the same way. Like the more we do, the easier it all kind of becomes. And we build a lot of systems and things like that. But yeah.
Yeah, that's that's the best like description I've ever heard of it, of like the of climbing a mountain, like you acclimatize to it. That's really good. Like cuz that applies like everything like you said. Um for as you jumped into that, how did it first of all, how did it affect your like actually going to hunt and stuff? And then two, like, you know, obviously your show and like if you guys also can check that out, they have a show on YouTube. It's the Okayest Hunter show, and they're out there hunting like at a show and everything. And the podcast, you guys are talking to people about it, but I'm sure as well, like you said, you want to get out there and hunt. How did that go along with like your trajectory of doing this as well?
The more I podcasted, the more I was like, selfishly, I was doing a lot of it just to learn. It's a figure if I have these questions, other people probably do. I'll just ask the questions I want answers to and selfishly like scratch my own back. And if people want to like listen because I'm learning, they'll probably learn something too. So I learned a ton, and I learned a ton like pretty quick. Like it wasn't just listening. When you're engaged in a conversation, there's this active listening component and critical thought. You have to really think about, like, as you know, as a host, you got to think about what am I going to ask this person? I have to study them a little bit. I have to come prepared. So I was reading up on the people that I was having on the show. I was learning about them. I was watching their stuff, listening to my other shows, and I was doing all this due diligence. And in doing that, I was like learning these things that I never even thought about before. Try it a ton, just and then I would go try, and so I really got, that's when things really started to like turn the corner, and I started to get like, oh, there's a whole world here, and I don't know that people really realize this about me, but I am insanely competitive. I just don't really come off the way because I have a very abundant mindset. So like, I think Gary Vaynerchuk says something like that: on the field of play, I'll rip your fucking face off. But I appreciate a worthy competitor or challenger. So like, I want to leave it all out on the field. Off the field, man, like we're playing the same game. Like I'm happy that you're here. It's all good. But like, if we're gonna compete, I'm gonna compete. So I love the self competition that deer hunting provides, where you're competing with yourself, and that competition is like, it's not really even a competition. It's just, can I push myself? Can I really feel like I challenge myself? Am I a worthy challenger? Of now that I have kids in this business and these shows and all this stuff, like it's hard to find time. And yeah, at some point maybe I'll have a whole bunch of time, but right now I don't. So it's one of those things.
Yeah.
But
That's like really good too. Like I learned with any of this, it's with that listening piece, like you also get way more curious though too. I don't know if you felt that. Like once you start learning about some stuff, you're like, well shit, now I know about that, but now there's like a deeper aspect to that. I wonder if I can figure that shit out, or like
yeah.
like um who was that? I was listening to some guy, the Steve Ranella, and then the Eric something. He hosts Bear Grease, which is a
Mm.
meat eater one, right? But
Clay
then
Newcomb.
all this other, and then you start guys that are hosting stuff. You're like, oh, I learn all about this. I'm learning about that, and it's a lot more fun that way.
Well, and I'm a huge fan of Stoicism, and there's all these different like Socrates and Benjamin Franklin all had these various quotes of, not to say that they're Stoics, but the more I know, the more I realize I know nothing. I think that was Socrates, and then Albert Einstein said, "The more I learn, the more I realize how much I don't know." And the more I learn, the more I realize, man, I what else don't I know? You
yeah.
know, like, and then you start to get really humbled, or you should. In theory, that's what likely would happen. So like I try to just keep my ego the hell out of it, because if you think you're too important, that's when things will probably start to go wrong. Like that's when God's going to give you a lesson. Like,
Oh
no, you're
yeah.
not. You know,
You know those guys at work. I don't know if you like in your regular day job or wherever. Like you see those guys that
you can't. Yeah.
yeah.
Like, no, I'm not on top of the world. I'm just trying to do what I do. Leave me alone, devil.
with with all this, like the guys you're talking to and stuff, who like are you who would you say is like giving you the most experience? Is it like a certain, like finding like you're like these like old timers you're talking to, or is it more advanced hunters, or what's it been like with that process? Are you finding like are you like more narrowing down more and more like who you actually want to talk to, or is it you're finding different ways every couple weeks of new outlets?
Uh, I mean, when I was earlier into the podcasting stuff, I think and just, I think that's never going to go away, and I don't have a problem with it, but we weren't doing anything that different because everyone was trying to like figure that part out. Like, how do I go kill these big mature bucks? And we were just doing that. And it was all fine. And now I just don't care, because I've like figured enough out that I'm pretty content right now. And that I could probably always go learn more. I'm not saying I know it all. That's not what I'm saying. To me, it's about having fun and being comfortable. And at the end of the day, it's a deer. Like, they're dumb. They're also incredibly smart, but it's a deer. And, I've other priorities right now. So, my family and the business being among the other priorities, and I have a career, like hunting means different things to me now than chasing a huge mature buck. I want to kill mature bucks because I love the challenge, but I'm not delusional, and I do live in reality, and my reality tells me I don't put in the time to then expect that I would kill a big buck. Because the one thing I've learned from all of these people is their level of dedication and effort and time is that's the secret weapon. There isn't a secret weapon. The secret weapon is just go put in the damn time
Oh yeah.
all year round. And that's not something I'm capable of doing right now. So, can a blind squirrel find a nut? I can get pretty close these days. I've figured enough out. Like, I'm hunting a lot smarter than I ever have. I'm putting the pieces together, but killing big deer is really hard. Like, it's like getting into the red zone. I can't punch it into the end zone, but I can get to the red zone. I can march down the field. I can make those big plays.
Yeah.
But when it comes time to like cross that red line, like, it's just not happening half the time. And I'm happy with that because I'm in the game. I'm in the game. I'm where I need to be. I'm right there. And I'll be happy to just, kick it in I don't need to set the place I'm living.
Like a lot people with a regular job don't have that kind of time to be out there. Out like
Yeah,
I'm
and
not,
just knowing that you can mess up, like hearing that you can mess up and it'll be fine. Like that's when you learn. I realized I could just do a factory reset and I had everything on a backup. He's like, well, then I just found ways to break the computer so I could just learn if I could fix it. And if I couldn't fix it, I just
yeah.
restart. I'm like, well, that's it. Like I have a whole nother. I can just clean slate it next season. Like I can go march into this area and see what I can learn. And sometimes you have to trade off a big learning lesson versus the actual kill because that learning is going to compound over the years and eventually you're going to start to kill. I just think that's what'll happen. Like you don't, and the guys that say they don't make mistakes are just lying. They're not the real killers. You talk to any actual big buck killer that's really good, they'll tell you all the mistakes they've made. And so we have a podcast on our network called Dropping Pins, who is hosted by Derek.
Yeah, I just
He does.
started it. I just started listening to the most recent one. It's good.
It's good. It's a podcast around the aha moments where these big guys, these big buck killer guys and gals, like, well, when did it click for you? Like, what changed? Like, when did this start happening? How did you figure it out? And they're like, well, I saw this buck doing this thing, or I finally pushed into this bedding area too far, or like they're speaking to these things that's kind of what I'm after is like, when did it click? How did it change? Rather than the tactic, because I just think there's too many variables to isolate that you can't tell me like you're killing big bucks only because you pay attention to thermals or only because you like the sure and everyone's kind of got their shtick. Everyone does have a thing that works for them and they hone in on that and get really good at it. So there's like mountain country bucks, hill country bucks, swamp country, field country. Once you figure that out, you figure it out. And so now
Oh
I'm
yeah.
reluctant to want to go play any other game because I'm like, yeah, I know if I go to that slot machine, I'll get a payout. Like, at least I'll get close to like it'll like get the big wheel spinning up top and it'll be like you're gonna win the grand prize, but it doesn't. It like stops like the one before it every single time. But I had a chance. Uh, so I feel like I'm in the game, like I said, and yeah, the aha stuff is what I think intrigues me the most, rather than the gear and the tactics. It's all part of it, and everything's a rabbit hole.
I grew up on a mid Missouri. It was 100 acres, my like old family farm, and my dad would do food plots every year and stuff, and he did it for like I mean, I've been hunting since I was 6, but he'd done it like since the 80s, like tried to do that. And I think the last like 3-4 years, he just, well, with work and shit, he was like, fuck it, I'm not doing it. And he just kind of let it overgrow. And we started seeing more deer than ever. And he was like, holy shit. There's no reason
Like,
to anything. Like, it's like time is an illusion at that point. Like everything's clicking.
oh, I
But
love
it
that.
might not have been his aha moment, but it shows that like, hey, a tried and true method isn't always tried and true. Like it can people. That's always showing them, hey, you can do it like this. What you guys did you guys start with just Okayest Hunter and then moved on from there, or how did all these other offshoots? Because I'd love to hear about the other ones that you got going on.
Yeah, we started. It used to be Where to Hunt, and then we rebranded it in 2020 to Okayest Hunter, and then we ran it as Okayest Hunter for up until 2024, 3. At the end of 23, I think Greg, who co-hosts the Okayest Hunter with me, he was like, "I want to do a fishing podcast," and I was like, "Yeah." I just kind of like ignored him. You sure you do,
Sure,
buddy?
dude.
Like,
Yeah.
you know what this is? Like, are you sure you want to do that? Like, it's endless work forever. Like, what are you doing to yourself? Well, I really want to do a fishing podcast. And then our buddy Matt Strime was like, "Yeah, I think I want to do it with him." I was like, "Look, guys, if you really want to do a fishing podcast, I'm not going to stop you, but I just want to warn you. Like, are you sure? Like, are you sure you want to do this? Because again, you know what this is." Matt I was like, "Matt, you already have a day job and a side hustle. You want another thing?" Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was like, "All right." So we did it, and once we did that, we have another my co-host, my partner in the business is Tyler. And he's like, I think we should do a duck hunting podcast and pheasant hunting and like talk about dogs as it relates to those two things. And I was like, I mean, yeah, you know what you're getting into. Like, you want to do that, do it. He already had a different podcast, so he killed that one and he started the Up Duck podcast. And then we had 3. And then this gal, Elizabeth Brownell, reached out. She's like, "Hey, you guys got a network? Can I join your network?" I was like, "Oh, I mean, I guess like the ones that we have are like our people. So it felt very easy to be like, yeah, of course. And I was like, I haven't really thought about to this. I was like, let me think about this and talk to my buddy Tyler, my business partner. I was like, well, I think we just got to get like a contract and let's figure out how we want to like build our model if there's gonna be more of this activity happening. So we really thought about it long and hard. We evaluated a lot of the other networks in the market, and we were like, we want to do it a very specific way and give as much value as we can to these podcasters if they want to join our network. So let's give them all the tools, all the hosting for free. They pay for nothing. We'll give them branding, cover art, audio, from our music production folks. We'll give them equipment. Let's just give them the whole kit and caboodle and just give them a platform so they can be themselves. They can name the podcast whatever the hell they want. It's just got to be something that it's going to feel happy and comfortable with. So we brought her on and we helped her name the podcast. We called it The Onset. They may or may not come back. Got it totally fun. More people started reaching out. So yeah, we've got 14 shows now, so I don't know what happened in the last
Holy
year.
shit.
But we vetted people. We were strategic about the category we wanted to speak to. It's like we just didn't chase after it. We had everything was inbound. We didn't really like chase anybody down. Like you want to join our network? Like we didn't do that. We're not trying to bring anybody and everybody on. We're not trying to build the biggest network. We're trying to build like a high quality network that speaks what we're talking about. It's got to be true to our tone and voice and brand. But yeah. So that's it. So everyone else does their own stuff. We just produce for the ones that need the most. Like some of them that we do all the productions. Others are like some of the guys are pretty savvy, and they just handle the upload themselves. And I'm like, sweet.
Yeah.
We're just supplying all this other stuff.
That's awesome though that you guys are like actually like supporting others and doing their stuff too. But that's so funny though that you like became a network without being like wait, what? What the hell is this?
I was like, nah, dude, you want to do a fishing pod? Like, I love the idea. I just don't know that, like, are you sure? And here we are. So everyone's cranking. It's a really good group of people, very eclectic group. A lot of really like hardworking, intelligent folks that I'm just very fortunate to better than what I do and are in their lives professionally, personally, hobby wise. Like, it's really all very cool.
That's awesome. Do you, with all that going on, do you still now like, you said you're still up in Wisconsin. Are you getting time to still hunt? And if so, are you getting to go on with these connections? Are you doing different hunts? Are you doing bigger stuff? Or are you just still kind of out here just?
Yeah, I'm just slaving away.
Them river bottoms.
I made a post the other day. I was like, it's not romantic. I just sit at a desk all day and work. Like it's not what people think. And I got invited to go to Oregon for a blacktail hunt, and I had to turn it down. And instead, I was like, well, we'll have someone go. I just can't. So we sent Greg and Derek to go, and we made a film out of it. It's just not finished yet. And I'm really excited to see it because it just sounds like it was the best time in the world. So I think there'll be more of that for me at some point, but it's tricky. Like I'm already, there's not a lot of like, this is my leisure. So it's 9:30 on a Thursday night. I already did this on Tuesday. And so like, I'm not watching Netflix. I'm not.
Yeah. Me and you
doing
up at 9 o'clock at night recording this. Like it's not always like a fun time necessarily, or like
I'm okay with it because I enjoy it. Got done with my show, produced 2 others, and then produced one more. It's 4 podcasts in one night. I was up to 1 o'clock. That's just what it took to get done. And it's fine. Like I signed up for this. And then I turn around and wake up at 4 or 5 a.m. somewhere in there, depending on how many times I hit the snooze button.
Yeah.
And get up and start cranking right away again. And because I have to get, 2 to 3 hours in before I start my day job. Because otherwise this shit's not going to get done this while I'm at my day job. That's stealing, So I have some pretty strong ethical boundaries about that too, or moral ones, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah, that shows your work ethic though, of what you're willing to put in for it. And that's like such a good point though, because like I look at your page and I think it's like it's so well put together, but I've been in this kind of game for at least long enough to know you're like, yeah, but that's not his whole life. Like a lot of these people think it's like the whole life or like they're living lavishly. And you're like, no, you
I
gotta,
sold my truck.
yeah,
Like I got rid of my truck and I'm driving a stupid car. Like there's financial problems with this stuff too.
yeah. It's
You know, and you hope it's all worth it someday. And it certainly is worth it regardless if I get to where I think I'm trying to go. But yeah, I was telling a buddy tonight, actually. I was like, dude, he's like, oh, you're killing it, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, people they keep saying this. And I'm not saying it out loud because I'm boastful. And so like that because where I am today, me 4 years ago would be like, holy shit, you know? And I think that's an entrepreneurial problem. I think us entrepreneurs have that problem where nothing's ever, I don't say good enough, but like as soon as you hit one thing, you're immediately onto the next like goalpost. And I gotta chill out a little bit and just kind of enjoy the ride a little bit more. Much like when you're raising kids, you don't want to wish ages away because like 3-year-olds are a nightmare to deal with. But they're only three once, and
yeah.
it goes quick, and then eventually, you're like, man, they were so little, you know.
Oh yeah.
But it's a freaking nightmare.
Yeah, my 7-year-old, he just discovered what YouTube was, and then our 2-year-old is like always sleeping in our bed, and I'm like, both these ages are like so interesting, but you're like at one of them, you're like, please get out of my bed, but also I love having you here, and the other one, you're like, why are you watching YouTube? But it's also like, oh, you're
Yeah.
becoming like a person. That's kind of cool. No,
Yeah.
it's so, and it's I think with this type of stuff, especially with what you're doing, because that's a very active, engaged type of activity with talking about like hunting, trapping, all this stuff. Like you're not only like it's a passion of what you like to do in your leisure. It's also what you're using your leisure time for to show guys like we talked about Steve Ranella, Michael Waddell, like all these dudes that are at the top performing, and in your like I think in everybody's mind, like you start a podcast and there's like a tiny ounce of you that's like this could become JRE. It could. Like you obviously know that's not realistic goal, but it's super fun to think about, and you always want to push yourself for higher and higher expectations. So
Yeah. My goal is have fun, or I'm not going to do it. And return on relationships, I call ROR instead of ROI, is, we're talking, we're bonding over the fact we have kids. We enjoy hunting and podcasting. We have three things in common. I'm sure we're going to be friends now. Like, that's how this goes.
yeah.
And, that's what's important to me. Got work are all the opportunities that have opened up as a result of doing this for like a decade. And it's pretty impressive. So yeah, I'm not delusional. We're not gonna be anything remotely close to Joe Rogan or not even Ranella. Like you think about what Ranella's doing, the dude's written like what 14 books.
Yeah, he's written quite a few.
I've written 0 books.
Yeah.
I
He's got
barely write for publications.
he's got
And
what 10 seasons of Meat Eater now. I
yeah,
mean,
on
it's
Netflix, like one of the
yeah.
biggest like distribution channels of modern like TV consumption that our generation has ever seen. I'm not like I don't have a book, I don't have a TV show Netflix. Like it's not even on the same playing field whatsoever. But it is good to know like that they have a lot of market cap or market share. So like good to know what you could do if you like could ever figure out how to make it.
Yeah.
So it gives me hope that like you look around the industry and you're like, yeah, well, good to know that it's possible. And if it's possible, I think Marcus Aurelius had a quote about like if it's possible, it means you could do it too. And maybe not exactly. Everyone's path is going to be drastically different. I'm not following anyone's footsteps. I do believe doing things different, not better. That's one of our core principles. But like, it's freaking possible that someone else did it.
Yeah. It's fun. It's fun to think about at least. I think that's you saying the interactions, like what we talked about, right? Like talking to you, I can tell, like you said, we get along with stuff. Like it's cool. The interactions you get from these are just like sometimes it's pure joy. Like when you're in the moment, you're like, this is kind of awesome. Like I'm having a good ass time right now. And that's so awesome to feel. Do you get that? Like I haven't got a chance to listen to like your regular show. I listened to Dropping Pins, but I didn't listen to the weekly show. Is it you and your host now, Eric, or what's his name? I'm so sorry.
Oh, don't worry about it, man. I don't remember his name. It's me, Greg, and Derek. So Derek hosts Dropping Pins. Greg hosts Okayest Fisher.
Oh, okay.
but they both co-host Okayest Hunter weekly.
Okay.
And that's a live call thing from people around the country. It's a really fun thing.
Yeah.
And my favorite episodes personally are like when it's just the three of us in the studio and we don't have a guest. I love having guests. That's just a different vibe. And when it's just us three in the studio, we're drinking bourbon, we're hanging out. I'm gonna like worry about manning cameras and think about interview questions. We just kind of like cut it up, and I think those episodes are a lot of fun, and I enjoy that a lot. So it's the three of us, and sometimes Derek can't make it, or maybe Greg can't make it, or we just kind of like. That's why it's nice to have them, in addition to like them being good people. It's not just me. Like I did that for a long time. That was really hard because you have to get a guest, you have
Yes.
to line up the schedules. Like it's a whole thing, and you guys have to be on. And that interview style back and forth, I think it works really well for Kenyon with Wired to Hunt. But I wanted to have a little bit more just general banter and bullshit, and not be so serious all the time. That show flows. It's it's broadcast or streamed live. The reason we do that is so we can take the callers, and we just let it rip and have fun. So it's a pretty chill, laid back deer podcast. Dropping Pins is a really, really great podcast just because of how Derek really knows what he's doing. If you're actually trying to figure out how to kill big bucks, go listen to Derek. Don't listen to me.
Yeah, the way they were talking, I was like, damn, these guys are like on their shit. They know a lot of shit. I gotta listen to the regular one. That I was gonna the way you were talking about that, my first like 10 episodes, all I did was interview I interviewed a few other people, but I mostly interviewed my two best friends from high school and then my brother. And we were all just sitting around drinking, and it's like sometimes it can be a little, you're like, oh shit, maybe this wasn't a great idea, but
Should we like air this? Yeah.
it's like, for the most part, the shit turning into meaningful conversations, and
Yeah.
you're like, man, this is super fun. Do you what's like now? What do you want to do now? I think I checked it. You guys were at like 25,000 followers or something. You got 14 shows. You got a presence everywhere. Your guys' merch, which I'm about to order, is like, it's one of those brands. I'm trying to make sure I cover it all, but it's like, you guys have so much. Where do you want to go from here? What's your expectations and all that?
Yeah, I think podcast network wise, we just kind of want to like bulk up. I want to take a break from bringing more shows on. We have one more show on deck. Once we get him on, it's gonna be a gear centric podcast. That'll be the focal point, and we got a great person to be doing it. So it'll be cool. After that, I'm kind of like not super interested in bringing more on for a little while, unless it's like something, I don't know, that I get really excited about. I just need to chill for a second. And then merch wise, we're always working on that. That's probably one of the harder parts of the business because there's so much there's a cash flow component to it. There's inventory. There's a little bit of debt leveraged. It's a whole thing, and it's super seasonal. Like you do not get to pull that revenue forward. It's like the Super Bowl. Like come September through December, it's time to go, and we'll make 80% of our revenue. 80% of our total revenue from merchandise will happen in those months. We'll do a little bit at trade show in March, but we break even. We just go because we want to go hang out with people. Like it's pretty chill. But we're always trying to like figure that part out. So yeah, there'll be more designs out this year. There'll be more hats out this year. We'll just we add slow because we like to test and validate test. Stuff is a bit of a beast business. So technically the business is Base Layer Media, and it's DBA Okayest Hunter. So we are a media company that happens to have some merchandise. And the cool thing about our merchandise is you don't have to know who we are to buy it. You could just find our small antler and be like, oh, I get it. I want to get that for my buddy at gun camp because he shoots spikes. Like you don't need to know who we are to go, Okayest Hunter, I totally get that's funny, haha. And it's at that point when people probably do learn about us, because in the email it says, hey, we got a podcast, go check it out. We got this, that, the other thing. Well, we're waiting to pack your order up. Why don't you go take a look at our other stuff? And so maybe some of those people click on it and they start to learn, oh, there's more going on here. And if someone starts to find us on the social channels or YouTube or Carbon TV or wherever else, it's like, oh, that was entertaining, or these guys are idiots, or whatever they're going to think. And then it's like, oh, they sell stuff. Like So it really all kind of works together, and it's pretty intentional. But it's a grind. Like you don't just get there overnight. It's taken a while, and we're
No,
not
I'm
even
sure,
remotely.
and I would never discredit obvious hard work. It shows from how I think you showed that in our talk of how like you're just like gonna do luck. Some of it is like a pinch of it might be luck for people, but 99% of it is hard ass work of like I want to make this happen because like
Yeah,
this
I
is
think
it's not easy.
Adam or James Clear talked about this phenomenon in his book Atomic Habits, and he said something along the line. I'm not going to get it right, but it'll be paraphrased. He said something like the effect of latent potential, where, and I'll probably use a different example. I can't remember what his was, but it's something like if let's say we're just living before electricity, and before we had like electric refrigerators, and you had to get a block of ice. And if you took that block of ice out of the freezer and you left it in the house and it was winter and you're going to have to bust your ass to go out into the wilderness and go chop wood. And you have to wait for that wood to dry out, and you have to chop more wood and chop more wood. And eventually you have to start a fire. And at this point, you're sweating your ass off. You've worked all week. You've worked really hard. You're starting to heat the room up. And even if the room gets to, 30 degrees, no one's going to see any movement. It's not until, so like you've raised the temperature of that room from 5 to 10 to 20 to 30, and maybe now it's finally getting to 32 degrees. Well, maybe that has taken, 4 years, and no one's seen a damn shred of anything. Now you finally get it to 32 degrees and the ice starts melting, and people go, holy shit, you did that overnight. How'd you get the ice to melt? It's like, bitch, I've been doing this for 4 years.
Just in
You're
my
just now finally
house.
seeing it. You're just finally seeing it, So I think I'm hopeful that we're kind of at the part where the ice will start melting and like
Yeah.
we can kind of get there, because it is a lot. But that all said, I work with some really large companies, and we're nowhere near what, like, for the amount of work we put in. It's a little like frustrating, but I have to remember we do this with 1/4% of our time, so it feels like a lot of work because we're already working
Well, you're
in day
tired. You
jobs.
got there's other
It's just different.
stressors going on. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a whole
It
different
goes back
beast.
to hunting. If I had more time, I bet you I would kill a big deer. If I had more time, I bet you this would be a real business. Like, that's how I feel about it.
Yeah, if I had more time to hunt, I wouldn't just only hunt whitetail and turkey. Like I could do a lot more crazy shit if I wanted to, but like it's so much, you know. I'm glad you understand that. That's a breath of fresh air. Um what I'll wrap it up a little bit, but I wanted a few questions. Like you're mostly what whitetail. Do you do anything else? Do you like to do waterfowl
Oh,
or
dude, I'm
anything
a
like that?
whitetail guy. Like, I don't care
Yeah.
about anything else. I don't. People keep trying to get me to go to into turkey hunting. I've done it. I've killed turkey. I don't care. They're really stupid birds, and I'm probably
What?
offending a lot of people
No.
that love
Come on,
turkey.
man.
Yeah, yeah.
There's
They don't do it for me. Like, it was fun. I
it
enjoyed
doesn't
it.
pump
It
me
lightened
up.
me up, but
Yeah. It doesn't pump you up like
it's
whitetails
not the
for
same
sure.
thing.
Sure.
Yeah.
Do you what about blacktail or mule? Nothing.
No, the guys went blacktail hunting last year for the first time
Yeah.
ever. I didn't go on that trip, and I think it's cool, but whitetail are just, I got like they're in my bones.
Yeah,
I
same.
don't know.
No, same. I have a special place for them. Like it's because, like I said, like my dad my dad's a psycho. My grandpa he like loved Saxton Pope and thought he was like the greatest dude ever. You know, Fred
Mhm.
Bear, all that shit, and like they were rabid when it came from September to December of
Yeah,
just
it's like,
yeah.
like, "I'm sorry, I don't even know what's happening."
Oh yeah.
It's like, yeah.
Well, I just got here in Kansas, and I finally got all my shit to hunt, and I was so pumped for it. And I didn't know what I was doing though, because I was bow hunting. Because I didn't have any of my guns up here, so I was like, I'm just gonna bow hunt because it's a little easier, and I can go after work or whatever. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. Like I'd never done public land much, so like I was learning that whole ordeal. Like you're talking about, I'm trying to listen to a billion things, and you're like,
Yeah.
I actually don't know a damn thing about all this. So I truly feel that appeal to whitetail though. But is there any like dream hunt you want to go on, or like anywhere you want to go actually hunt, or like do you
No,
just love
I
it?
mean,
I've
I'd
heard
love to go elk
Wisconsin's
hunting.
great.
I'd love to go. All my kids are born in September, so I don't know if an elk hunt's in my near future.
How long? Yeah, we did they do that up there, or where's? I don't even know where the nearest elk is. Is it in Wisconsin or no?
No, and there's out here. They're not. It'd be like winning the freaking Powerball. No, they're not here to hunt for real. Like
Yeah.
you can hunt them, but you can like that's like one person gets to do it every year or something. Uh, yeah, I mean, if I could go to like Wyoming or somewhere scenic to hunt elk, I think that's what I love. But although I have heard that like New Mexico is also pretty scenic and there's lots of elk there, and that's one I would love. I want the meat. Like I would shoot a cow. I don't care.
Yes, that's what it's all about. I'm trying to put
Yeah.
stuff in the freezer.
Like I really would love some elk meat. I think that'd be so great to just have in my freezer, and it would it's like a freaking cow. I mean, they're called a cow elk. Like I would love to have that.
It's like 400 to 600 pounds. That's nuts.
Yeah, I don't have room for antlers. And, like I don't have vaulted ceilings, so like
Yeah.
I'm not gonna
Put them outside. I'll put them next to the trash can to look pretty.
Yeah.
I'll
give them to my dogs.
and I'll buy 2 deep freezers. That's what I'm gonna do. Like, that's wild. Well, how about these guys you're doing it with? Are they rabbit hunters? Are they ready to get like? Are they way more into it? Derek? Yeah.
Derek's he is in deep. He's got like some real obsession. Greg too. Derek's got it way worse, and I'm like the one that's way out of it compared to those two. So like, Greg is like our resident woodsman, gear tinkerer, kind of DIYer. Derek's like our hardcore big buck killer psychopath, and I'm just like the idiot that understands business and marketing to a degree of pure obsession. So,
Hell yeah. Do you like what about these other people? Like when you brought like I'll bring up the trapper one just because I get so interested by trappers because that's such a different thing. How did you like judge that kind of character of like how they were gonna be with their subject and stuff? Were you
I've followed Zach on LinkedIn for a while, and I'd seen him around. I kind of understood his tone and voice to a degree, and he had reached out. He's like, "Hey, see, you kind of got this network thing going. Would you want to do one on trapping?" I was like, "Dude, trapping is actually on my list. And if it's you that wants to host it, then it's a yes. Like, when do you want to start?" He also wrote the book Turning Feral. He kind of did the white picket fence life and worked in tech, like AI actually, and worked for the State Department, did all this crazy shit. And then he, I think, built a business and sold it or something to that effect, and then moved to the bottom of the Sawtooth Mountain, bought a cabin out there in the middle of literally nowhere. There's nothing out there, and started trapping. Now his journey started way before that because he got into archery hunting, and he started by just shooting a bow and stuff. So he was an adult onset hunter, kind of got into archery, and then fell in love with trapping and the beauty of it, and kind of like this sense of going back in time to how people used to do things, a long time ago. And he's just a great dude. Like he's like super organized. He is super regimented. His shit is together, seemingly. Like he
probably has to be when he's living out in the middle of nowhere, right?
Yeah, you gotta like have your shit. So yeah, it's a great show. In the last 30 days, he's become the #1 show on the network. I have to zoom out more than 30 days so I can make him feel like he's not winning, because I'm competitive.
Yeah.
But when someone's winning on our own team, it's cool. Like I'm happy to see that's kind of been the goal. And the way that the network is kind of designed is that there's going to be these seasonal ebbs and flows. So we're trying to like even that out throughout the year by hitting off these different categories. So
that's kind of cool that like all the shows can kind of have like they'll have a little overlap, but they kind of have their own little like season, like you said. That's cool.
Yeah, and everything's so hardcore whitetail, and I was like, that's cool, but like, can we just do other stuff outside? Like, there's more to whitetail. As obsessed as I am with them, like, there's more to go do outside. Let's just talk about all the other stuff you can do outside. So that was kind of like the impetus of how we wanted to start thinking about it.
Yeah, I love what you're doing, Eric. I'm glad that you explained it all to me. Not really explained it, but you told us about what it all was. But it pumps me up to know that you got like all that kind of shit going on, and you're still, like you said. I think the first thing we said when we hopped on, you go, "It's a dumpster fire. It's fucking crazy." And then I bring up my kids. That's fucking crazy. No, it's all crazy, but it's all good,
Yeah, no, it is.
You're obviously succeeding, and I only wish you like further credit. I think what you're doing is great, and you're gonna succeed.
No,
So.
I appreciate it. And to anyone else that's out there doing this stuff, like, We started with a USB Yeti Blue microphone and Skype to record phone calls.
Hell yeah.
You can. Things are way easier now to get into podcasting than when I started, but you just need to have good conversation, have fun, and focus on the journey, and do things that are uniquely you, because there's no other you in the world. So it doesn't matter if you're even doing the same exact topic as someone else, you're going to do it differently.
True words were never said. Eric, thank you for coming on the podcast. Guys, thank you for listening. I really hope what you heard here, I loved every minute I spoke to Eric, so I hope you guys did too. Take care.